Okay, okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining. My name is Morgan Shannon, and I work with the Power Coalition. And today you are on our She Leads Community Activist Fellowship informational webinar. Next slide. Today, we're going to be talking to you about what the Power Coalition is, an overview of the She Leads Fellowship Program, the application process and how to submit an LOI, a letter of interest. You'll also hear from former fellows who have matriculated through the program, and we're going to ask them some questions. We're going to go through our FAQs and just some frequently asked questions that we know that we get, and we're going to have a question and answer period. Hopefully everybody is on mute, but or actually I guess y'all can't really talk because y'all are on a webinar. But if you have questions, we'll use the question and answer feature. Yes, so everybody is on mute. And if you have questions, we have the question and answer feature where you can submit your questions. Next slide. So what is the Power Coalition? So if a lot of people are here, you maybe have heard about the Power Coalition or on our listservs, maybe follow us on social media, or maybe know somebody who works who is associated with the Power Coalition. But the Power Coalition is a statewide civic engagement table that works to shift power back to people. We talk about policies, we fight for policies that are hurting our folks, and we work to increase voter participation by doing community activism. We also really believe in investing in women of color because we believe that women-led activism is one of the most powerful levers for the change that we want to see. We understand the importance of really having set investments in women to be able to not only build themselves, but typically when women of color receive resources, they not only help themselves, but they help everyone that's around them. Next slide. And so also a little bit more about the Power Coalition before I go on to who we are seeking. The Power Coalition is a statewide civic engagement table. We are anchored by many tables that do a lot of base building work. We also do a lot of base building work, policy change and advocacy, organizing, a little bit of direct service and things like that. We do policy, like this week is the end of legislative session, and many of us have been at the Capitol really trying to advance equity and justice. Just today, we got a decision from the Supreme Court of the United States that said that the maps in Alabama, the redistricting maps in Alabama, were unconstitutional and did not meet the standards of the Voting Rights Act. And so that was really powerful news because we have been fighting for redistricting since 2020 when we started with the census. And so this is just giving you a couple of examples of the things that we do. We knock on doors for elections. We make sure that people have what they need to be able to not only live, but also thrive. And so we also believe unapologetically in investing in women of color, building capacity and building strong leaders throughout the state, because we know that that's going to be important as we want to change the trajectory of our state. And so She Leads is a fellowship. It started off as an idea. We are Black women founded and led. And so Ashley Shelton, who is our founder, president, and CEO, understood the importance of making sure that we intentionally invest in women of color, Black women, other women of color across the state, to build not only their capacity, but to also give them resources. Like, folks really just kind of need some money to be able to fully resource their ideas or to start their ideas. But then also people want to know, like, where to go. Like, how do I start my 501c3? Or what is a 990? Or how do I build my brand? We also really believe in health and wellness and rest as an important tool towards liberation. And so this fellowship, we're in our 4th year. We've had 4 years of fellows. We just ended our 4th fellowship. And now our 3rd fellowship, I think. Yeah, our 3rd fellowship. And now we're going into our 4th fellowship. We've been able to invest over $100,000 to almost 100 women across the state. And so that's really a lot of investment, both resources, time, and things like that. And so what are we seeking? We're seeking someone that's 18 or older that is directly impacted by the issues that they seek to resolve. And so say you might want to, we have former fellows that might be doing literacy programs for people who are formerly incarcerated because what brought them to their work is being formerly incarcerated. You also, that's just one idea. You also need to reside in one of these areas: Alexandria, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and River Parishes, and Shreveport. Now, other areas will be considered, but these are the areas that we have prioritized over the course of this fellowship. And then again, are you directly affected, or do you have a significant direct experience with the issue, a policy, a practice you're trying to seek, the system you're trying to focus your activism on? And we want you to be able to use the power of communications. We really understand that making sure that we are advancing and telling our stories and putting our narrative out there is a tool towards liberation, to make sure that people are understanding what our message is, and we are operating under a similar North Star. And so we'll talk about how to be able to use the power of communications, but we do ask you about like your social media handles and things like that. Have a lack of access to traditional funding opportunities, or lack access to easy funding in leadership development. And so haven't been able to maybe really get a lot of grants and things like that, haven't had access to that kind of funding. And so like some of these organizations that traditionally might have access to funding, we're not asking folks for those organizations to apply. Next slide. Okay, and so fellows are awarded fellowship grants between $1,500 and $3,000 for an 8-month period. The fellowships are made to individuals and are not project-based. And so though we want to know about your programs and your projects and what led you to activism and what you're trying to continue with this work, this is really a fellowship that is for you. It's an investment in you. And so if you're a part of an organization, like many people who have been fellows or who have applied to fellows, this fellowship is for you, even if you're tied to an organization. There are 3 stages to the application process. It's this LOI, so that just tells us that you're interested. And then you move on to a full application, and then you have interviews. The letter of interest is due on June 21st, before it gets to be June 22nd, so 11:59 is when the LOI. You also have to be a Louisiana resident, like live in Louisiana, to be able to get this fellowship, but obviously, because I just said what the priority areas are. But anyway, we'll also notify you if you're moving to the next phase, or if we have, and that's where we'll have some additional questions for the full application. And so on the 21st, that's when your LOI is due. Then on the 30th, that's when you'll be notified if you're moving to the full application. You have about 2 weeks to submit the full application. That's due by Friday, July 14th. Same time, 11:59 p.m. And then we move on to the interview process, and you'll be reviewed by a community review team of former fellows and people who are stakeholders of the Power Coalition. And then we make recommendations, and you may be asked to meet with a final review committee over the phone. We're going to have a lot of people that are going to apply for this, and unfortunately, everybody won't get selected. And so sometimes at the end of the process, there are about like 2-3 people, 4 people who are neck and neck, and we might have to just ask additional questions. And so we look to make fellowships awards towards the end of July. So this is a very tight timeline, very aggressive timeline, but we want to make sure that we start the fellowship so everybody is able to get that capacity building and training that is also a key component to this fellowship. Next slide. Okay, so what is the letter of interest, a LOI? A letter of interest is just us asking you questions. We ask you a couple of questions about yourself, your achievement, your community involvement, what the community benefit would be, and what you feel like you need as a leader, like what you want to grow. Your answer should be brief, but focus on how this fellowship can help you as in continue your work. Like, how can it help you continue your work? Some folks have asked me, like, how long should this be? It shouldn't be that long, but you should be able to tell your stories in like a finite amount. Not long, maybe like 8 sentences or more, but some people can say things a little quicker, and some people might need a little bit more words to be able to describe, but just do not feel obligated to really like write a whole essay. You can upload 2 files that help to get to know us, like know you more. Oftentimes I get irritated a little bit with applications because I just feel like I have a document that describes me. And so if you have that, you could upload that. And then also they must be submitted by June 21st at 11:59 to be able to be considered for the next phase. Next slide. Okay, so here's a couple of FAQs. I'm not going to go through all of them because they are on our website, powercoalition.org/she leads. And I already described what the Power Coalition is, so we can go to the next. So we have up to $3,000 for the grants that are going to be available to the individuals. Again, we're using a review committee that's comprised of just a lot of folks that are in our network, just a lot of our folk that will be able to, some of them might be former fellows, that'll be reviewing the application process and also doing the interviews. Next slide. How do you know if you're eligible for She Leads? You have to be over 18. You have to be living in the community where you want the work to take place. You should reside in Louisiana, and some of these places, Alexandria, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Shreveport, Lake Charles River parishes, other areas might be considered. So that doesn't, if you know somebody who might live in Crowley, like tell them to apply. Applicants must directly be affected or have a direct link to what they're trying to do. And so if you might be doing a literacy program, maybe you're doing a literacy program because you work with school-age children and you know directly how literacy is important. You should be an individual applying for this. It'll be awarded to individuals. Next slide. The fellowship is 8 to 9 months because it just sometimes depends on like what's going on in the outside world. Like for instance, one year was a big hurricane, and so we didn't meet for like a month, but we extended it for a month on the back end. The fellowship is basically virtual. We'll have like 2 in-person meetings, our kickoff and our ending, and we might throw another one in there in the middle of the fellowship, but it's mostly all the trainings are in the evening once a month. So it's going to be just like this on Zoom with our people joining us on Zoom. But so it's mostly virtual, but there are 2 in-person requirements. You can get additional information about She Leads from going to our website, powercoalition.org/she leads. If you can scan that QR code, that'll take you right there. And you can ask direct questions to that email, pcsheleads@powercoalition.org. Next slide. Okay, so this is like one of my favorite parts of this, other than the question and answers. Can my panelists come on camera if you can? We have panelists. I think all of these fellows are from the 2022 fellowship class. So that's cool. And we have Randia, we have Melissa, and we have Lakita. So hopefully you all are all on. I can't see because of the PowerPoint. Maybe we could stop the PowerPoint. Well, hold on, because I need to know those questions. Can you put the questions in the chat, Mariama? But anyway, I'm gonna start off with Lakita. Lakita, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Lakita.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
Good, good,
Thank you
good,
so
good.
much for joining us.
Of
Uh,
course.
Lakita is a former fellow, but really has been a really strong partner in our work. Just came to us through the work, and we have been able to really partner in power with Lakita, doing disaster recovery work, doing redistricting work, doing gun violence work, and so Lakita, we would love to hear from you. Please describe your work or your project with She Leads, and also add which ways you benefited from the She Leads program.
Sure. I just want to start off by saying good evening, everyone, and just expressing my gratitude for the Power Coalition for just allowing me to have this space and share spaces with you all, because I think it's such a big deal that we build power within our own communities. And so my organization, Abella Film Society, ABLS for short, you may hear us say that a lot, the acronym. And it means a beautiful lady society. So intentionally, when I started the nonprofit in 2018, I was thinking of ways of how I can really, really, really empower my people. My organization's dreams was 7 years old, right? I manifested my organization for 7 years before stepping out on faith. And as Morgan mentioned, I was a volunteer with the Power Coalition. I pulled up, connected with them in Vote years ago, pulled up, and it's like we've been family ever since. So looking at my mission and my values for my own nonprofit organization, I wanted to help in so many sectors. And a long time ago, Morgan was on a panel and she mentioned she didn't want to be boxed in. She didn't want to have to be just defined in a particular, and that's me, because it's several different things that I care about. And I was like, how can I build power among the things that are impacting me, important to me, and important to the people in my community? And so as we start to evolve, like I said, the mission and the vision of the organization is to promote mental wellness through minority women, through collegiate scholarships and advocacy work. So that advocacy started to expand into many sectors of my work and my life. And so that's from criminal justice reform, mass incarceration, disaster relief, just everything. And over the years, we just have been building and building power thanks to the Power Coalition. So looking at She Leads, the very first cohort, when they announced that I wanted to apply, I knew I didn't have the capacity to do it. So I was like, the third time is a charm, and I did apply for the third cohort, and I was accepted, and I was just overjoyed. I was one of those people. I wrote an essay. I did because I took the application process so seriously, even though we had a bad history and a relationship. I don't play in this work, and I don't play with the people that build the power in this work. So the respect and the love and the loyalty was there, and so I wanted to be serious about my project. And so as I started to think about what can I do to present my project to She Leads, I first thought I wanted to build an office in New Orleans, right? And I was looking at the finances, I was looking at the overhead, and we do so much work directly with families in the city and statewide. Actually, I was like, I don't know if that's ideal because I already have a Baton Rouge office. So I kind of scratched that, and I went to them and I said, hey, we've been doing disaster relief and we are really building power. We're getting a lot of donations, in-kind donations like clothing and, food. I was like, we're going to need to do a disaster relief trailer. And they were on board with it. And surprisingly, and I was like, oh, and I want to build the trailer from scratch. I want to customize this trailer and I want to put all of our logos on this trailer. And it was like, okay, say less. And we started out with a vision. We had to critique it. I had to incorporate a logo because my logo was a problem. And so, and here we are now, ready to take on storm season 2023. And when I think about the work and I think about the compassion, I had so much room to go back to the table and say, hey, this is not working for me, this is working for me. I need more funding, I need this is not, where are the resources for making sure that somebody is on point with doing the design concept, and I went to 4 or 5 different people. So it wasn't easy. It wasn't always a sunny day. It took months for the trailer to be built. It took months for us to find someone who would not take advantage of us, right? Because that's important as well. When you see an organization that's so strong like the Power Coalition, people were overcharging me trying to do the trailer because they knew the names that was attached to it. So I went back to the drawing board because I wasn't going to let that happen. We found somebody that was responsible and reliable and that cared about the work that we were doing. So he gave us a very good price. And so just being consistent, but also just this whole experience with the partnership of having to go back to the table several different times and erase the board and start over and say this, that. And it was the patience, and it was just a beautiful thing. And I just want to say thanks again. And that is definitely my experience. And you had another part of the question.
Yeah, but I'm gonna ask all three of y'all that question.
Okay.
Like a popcorn. But I want to say one thing about Lakita too, and she continues to show up too. And we have 2 other panelists that have a similar spirit to that, where it's like, okay, now Lakita, we're doing this. All right, what time? Okay, now Lakita, we're doing this. Okay, now even something as like uncomfortable but also radical of like we're taking 100 students across the country to DC. And I feel like we maybe told you like 10 days before we were leaving, and you were like, I'm getting on the bus. What time is it leaving? And treated every student like that was your child. I just feel like you just to the steps of the Capitol, to a weekly call, always shows up. And that is really when Ashley and folks started this notion. Because we can also, please check out our report, our 2021 report, where we really do break down how much funding goes to Black women and women of color programs. And it's so small that it's a really radical idea to just say, I'm just going to invest in people because I know that I wanted somebody to invest in me, and so I'm going to pay it forward. I do want to bring Melissa into the conversation as well, and ask you the same thing. Melissa, are you there?
I'm here.
And so can you describe your work and your project and how the fellow benefited you?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this safe haven. Glad you all could be on. Just a little bit about myself. My name, of course, Melissa Francis. I am a mother of 5 beautiful children, a child of God, and just, happy to be a part of the Power Coalition itself. To describe my work, I do a lot of work, but the one I get paid for, y'all, I am a parent union organizer with Step Up Louisiana, and I utilize the funds from the Power Coalition in building my base. As a parent union organizer, sometimes it's difficult for organizers to get parents, involved in this in their children's lives, to be empowered to know about their basic rights as a parent who's sending their children to these charter schools, right? So what I did was I started a tutoring program because not many of our children have enough cultural background or have the benefit of knowing about our own history. So it worked for, it was a way I can learn more about my history and also be able to teach it. But I also was able to partner up with Xavier students, right? And to get this tutoring done. And all I told the parents was, I mentioned to the parents that if you want to send your children here, you have to attend a meeting at least once a month. And that influenced a lot of young parents to come and learn about, just say it like this. They were able to get some tools in their toolbox to be empowered to better support their own children, right? So it was amazing. I mean, my base is continuing to grow, and not only I'm being empowered, but our children and the neighborhood, my community, the parents are empowered as well. I can't thank Power Coalition enough. The She cohort, it was great. I mean, you don't have to stress about anything. And in the beginning I did, but hats off to you all for, giving me this opportunity, because I really benefited from it. And the next person I refer to it will also benefit. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And then finally, not last but not least, we have Ms. Verandia. Are you on? Verandia, can you come off mute? Okay, well, while we're figuring that out, let's just have Lakita. Oh, Verandia, are you on off mute? Okay, well, let's just have Lakita and Melissa and Verandia, if you can get off mute, one piece of advice that you would give or share with future applicants. Like, what's your piece of advice? Lakita,
I'll be happy to go first.
Oh, Melissa, yes, please start.
Okay. There are many sessions that you'll benefit from, socially, financially, mentally, spiritually, right? Some people are able to grasp on to all of those benefits of this program, but I needed to benefit mentally because I had a son. My only son God gave me. He transitioned a day before his birthday and during the pandemic. And I can tell you this, the sessions where we had counselors that, that supported us and talked about if you don't feel ashamed about getting the help. As women, Black women, we always are helping somebody. But when it's time for us to get the help, we always sell ourselves short, right? So with that being said, if you're not mentally stable, you can be thrown off. You can be thrown off on many tasks, right? But I want to tell you, at one time I didn't have a voice. I didn't speak loud enough. And I feel like my voice is getting louder and clearer because She helped me to bring out the voice that was hidden in me. It's not all the way out yet, but I mean, this is a big step for me to get on this panel and to be able to share my story to you all so you can feel comfortable in sharing yours. I want to say this. That when you're going through grief, you don't wear a sign on your forehead saying that I am a mother of who lost a child or whatever have you. And this world will run its course and they'll eat you alive if you allow them to. But I was able to stand my ground as a woman, as a Black woman. Especially when I was in a room with these powerful Black women, Black and brown women, I was able to say what I needed to say. I was able to get the mental counseling that I needed, the grieving counseling that I needed. And from, I feel like I have a sisterhood I can always piggyback on. And if I needed help in anything I needed help on. So I just want to say, if your focus is getting your mental health together, this is a good for this. If you're trying to get your bag, financially, this is a good space for that. If you're trying to get your spiritual connection, this is a space for this. If you're trying to be more socially incline and want to network, this is space for this. You can do all of those things, but don't feel bad or being a lack of if you don't do them all. Because if you know, like I said, mentally, if you need that help, they're here to support you. So that's all I have to say, y'all.
Amazing, Melissa, and thank you so much. These kind of like testimonials or like people who've been through the program is exactly like the kind of things I think about when I'm applying to things. This is like, I want to talk to somebody who's been through it and hear what they have to say. Lakita, I want to hear one piece of advice you have for future applicants, and also someone asked you a question in the Q&A function. And again, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A function in the Zoom, or you can put them in the chat box as well. They wanted to know actually advice you would give new nonprofits in regards to gaining community engagement, donations, and partnerships.
Okay, thank you so much. I just want to say, Melissa, I am always sending you some love and light. And I'm keeping you lifted. I understand grief all too well myself. And just thank you for coming on here and expressing it and being vulnerable in this space. And so the one piece of advice that I would give to everybody that's on this call, even new and old, some of you are very familiar. I have looked and I'm seeing who's attending. Be transparent, be real, and be loyal. Because one thing about this space, this is not a space to come into and play. If you know that it's too much for you, then only bite off what you can chew, but be very authentic in this space, because that's one thing about discernment. A lot of us are leaders and we know the shit from the sugar. And I can't be, you know, real enough. But absolutely, please make sure that you are being your sister's keeper, that you are a reflection of not only yourself, but the Power Coalition, the She Leads organization, and just the person that people need in the community. Don't come into this space and play. And so that is my advice. And so to think about the question, I would definitely say the same thing. Show up as your authentic self, your true self, and always have your elevator pitch ready. Always make sure that you can deliver just what your passion is to increase engagement with your nonprofit organization, and also have a strategy. If you are new and you're trying to build power, the first thing that you need to be concerned with is what is going on in my community and who is my population that I am going to be serving, and also building a volunteer base. I think that is so essential that you have volunteers, because once people see and stakeholders understand that you have people behind you, then the grants and the opportunities will present themselves. And always keep your faith. This is a necklace that I wear and I want to share it with you all. This is my healing necklace. It's called the Mustard Seed of Faith collection. And when my mom died January 26th, I wanted something to remind me of her that would not make me cry, but it was something so beautiful, and I gravitated to it at an event, and I said to myself, I'm going to wear this every day as a reminder. And so this is my healing necklace. So keeping, and you all know the saying about having a mustard seed of faith, right? And so that is how you can engage your organization. You can scale your organization and grow your organization by being authentic and connecting with the people and listening to what the community needs. I pivot my services all the time, because sometimes people don't need assistance with disaster relief. They may need mental wellness services. They may need me to go out and protest. They may need me in DC to talk about redistricting and fair maps. Whatever the community needs, if you have the capacity and you know that you have a platform, utilize your voice, and stakeholders really appreciate that. And again, if you don't take nothing else from this, make sure you have your elevator pitch. Make sure that you are in the room with people who are like-minded and who is going to reinvest into your organization. And if you want to talk offline, we can. And I don't know who asked the question, but we definitely can. Power Coalition have all of my contact information. And so if we want to kind of talk one-on-one, I don't have any problems. And I can actually show you what some of my stewardship reports look like, and some of my grant requests and just letters that I sent out to stakeholders. But thank you so much for that question.
Thank you so much. And we do, we have Lakita. Maybe Lakita, you could put your contact information in the chat for folks that might want to follow up with Lakita or Melissa, if you have access to the chat too, and feel comfortable with that. Melissa also works for an anchor partner named Step Up Louisiana. That's what she was talking about, where she does a lot of parent organizing. And so if you're interested in that as well, oftentimes when we are in these spaces, it's really about fellowshipping. It's really about connecting with people so that you can ask people direct questions. This fellowship is all about like sharing information and not hoarding resources, making sure that whatever I know, you know, wherever you're supposed to turn up, you can turn up. And if you weren't there, I'm taking notes to make sure you know what happened and where you need to be. Sometimes I'm even sending you texts to say this, you know, and that kind of things. And so I did see a couple of questions on there. I know there's so many ideas. We want to go back to the PowerPoint, Mariama. I know there's so many ideas that people have. So many ideas. The Power Coalition is an organization that works at the intersections of so many things. Our people are experiencing multiple levels of oppression at one time. If somebody is housing insecure, they're often economically disadvantaged. You might know somebody that's criminally justice involved. You might know someone that health is not the best because of all of the things that they have to deal with on top of just being a Black person in America. And so, yes, we know there's a lot of ideas, and not saying that you can't work on a myriad of ideas, but unfortunately, due to limited funds, we can really only fund one of those ideas. That's not to say that not to put all the ideas onto paper, but sometimes we do have to just kind of tunnel in and say, okay, this is going to be our North Star for right now. Like at the Power Coalition, we're just going to be working on redistricting because we know that's our North Star. And then when we have more time, we can add other things. Let's see if there's any more questions. Is there a preferred background for the program? Can you say more about the preferred background, like a person background? The only requirements we have for the people that are applying is that you're a woman of color that lives in Louisiana, and we have priority places, but you don't have to like have be in an education background or public policy background or anything like that. There's no preferred background. I hope that's what you meant. I'm saying that right, for the preferred background. Let's see if there's another question. Oh, no background in social work. You don't have to have a background in anything. We have folks that used to maybe do like philanthropy on down to own their own business and did home health work. So you just have to have a presence in the community that you want to serve. You have an idea of something that you want to do, and it doesn't have to be like your day-to-day or your 9-to-5. You could be an artist, you could be, you could work at the Costco. It all depends on, do you have an entryway into activism and something that you're interested in? Okay. If there are no other questions, this is also recorded. Maybe you're joining because you want to apply. Just apply. I think that sometimes we just have to just step out on that faith and just know. So just apply. Maybe you know somebody who's perfect for this. You can definitely send them the application. Remember, the LOI application, remember, it's due on the 21st. And also, you can also forward them this recording. This is recorded.
Excuse me, my mic is on now. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hey, Brandia.
I'm sorry, I was having computer problems.
Yes. No problem. Yeah, so what are the questions that we asked? folks where can you describe, say your name and where you're from, and can you describe the work of your project?
My name is Lorandia Marsland, and I'm from the Pineville, Alexandria area. I had 2 projects, but the one that was very close to my heart was Daughters Without Mothers. I had a tea in October, and I invited daughters whose mothers had passed or either incarcerated. And I had every daughter, I had 6 daughters, and they gave what their mother left to them that they're passing to their children and grandchildren. And from those comments, I'm compiling a booklet. And as soon as I get it together, I make sure that each one of you all get one. I got this idea because we're losing our young Black girls, and they have to feel good about themselves. And I tell my daughter all the time that if I knew that she was going to be the daughter she was and is now, I would have had 15 of you, Key. She never gave me any problems. She was never high maintenance, and I gave it out so that she could have. And the main thing that I took, and I'm still carrying this on now, I've also picked up another project, calling all girls from the ages of 10 to 24. We meet once a month, and the name of our little group is the Powder Room. When you leave the Powder Room, we want you to look good and feel good about yourself when you step out in the public. So Sheila gave me the ability, the desire to get up every morning and relive again. My husband died 2 years ago. Just didn't have that tenacity that I used to have. So when I was awarded the grant, I reconnected back to my community. I started going to senior citizen groups. I started volunteering at nursing homes. I went to local churches, church service. I gave away over 25 Thanksgiving baskets, and it was just a godsend for me. And I tell everyone that I contact with, sprinkle love. It doesn't take a lot to sprinkle. Just give it from the heart and really, really mean it, because the person that you are sprinkling know that it's coming from your heart. My praises goes out to Mrs. Ashley for the vision that God gave her to help us to empower our young Black girls so that they can be future leaders, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take us sticking with them, making them feel good about themselves, educating them to let them know that, hey, I am somebody. I can do it, and really, really mean it. And I just thank God, I just thank God for the program. So the ones that's coming on, the future ones, just sprinkle love everywhere you go. Just put a smile on your face and just say, hey, how you doing? You never know who day you're making just by sprinkling a little love. That's it.
Yes, and Ms. Brandy, can you please share the name? A question in the chat for you was, can you please share the name of your group again?
I had 2 groups, but my main focus was on Daughters Without Mothers.
Daughters Without Mothers.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you so much for working with us with these technical difficulties and sharing your information and your wisdom and your knowledge and your appreciation of the fellowship.
Thank you.
Also, you all, don't be dismayed about partners. You might not have any partners right now, and that's okay. Working through the fellowship will help you identify your partners. Actually, being in the fellowship will give you a whole host of partners from past fellows in your class. And so maybe you don't know your partners yet because you live in a rural area, or maybe you're just new to the work and you don't necessarily know who everybody is. You can work through that with the fellowship. And so don't be dismayed by the partners. Again, you don't have to have any kind of background in whatever you might think you need a background in to apply for this fellowship. You don't have to do that. Don't worry about that. Also, LaDonna shared their information with you, Verandia, and so we'll make sure that you get that information because she wants to connect with you about publishing and wants to be able to help. I really appreciate everybody for joining. Again, if you have any question, please feel free to email that pcssheleads@powercoalition.org. That's going to be your place where you can submit your questions. Don't be intimidated by any questions. You can just ask them directly. Again, our fellows also put in the chat their information, the ones that were on this. And if you signed up, registered for the webinar, we'll make sure you get the recording and their contact information as well. And so thank you all for joining. Thank you all for your interest in this fellowship. We look forward to seeing your applications and your letters of interest, which are due the 21st at 11:59 p.m. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Peace.